Hi everybody, hopefully you can see and hear me okay. I'm a little bit croaky today, so apologies. Hopefully the internet is going to be working okay and I'm not pixelated or anything. I know there was a few comments on the podcast last night that I was a little bit pixelated and my internet has been acting up a little bit today, so I have just reset it. Sophia is home from college this afternoon, but she has come off the internet for me. So fingers crossed, we will be okay. Touch wood. So hi Amanda, hi Donna, hi Pam, hi Tracy, hi Jilly, hi Sue, hi Dawn, who says, I'm not usually awake in time for your lives. This is exciting. Exciting to be here, probably not excited to be awake as early as what you are, because yeah, it must be very, very early where you are. So I'll just give everybody a couple of minutes to sort of find us, and yeah, so today I'm going to be sewing up the Vicky May 3 by Studio 77. So this pattern has 3 versions, so Vicky May 1, Vicky May 2 and Vicky May 3. This is the version with the pocket on the front. So this version here. So yeah, I have made this quite a few times. I've also made the Vicky May 2 version as well. It's a really, really fun sew. Think I have all of my pattern pieces and my hardware. I don't think I'm going to have to make any mad dashes into the garage to find any. I think we're going to be okay. Famous last words. So hi Karen, hi Brian, Tammy, Anita, Cynthia, Janet, Dawn saying bad night sleep, awake at 5. So that's not so exciting, but she is excited to be here. I didn't actually even think, Dawn, when we were messaging a little bit earlier on about next week, that it would have been really early where you are. So yeah, it's not great when you haven't slept well. So I'm going to get all my bits and pieces brought over. And then I'll run through the pattern pieces, how I've interfaced, what I'm using, my hardware, etc. And then we'll make a start. I was going to do a little bit of embroidery on my front panel, but time has just absolutely run away from me this week. And because I don't have my embroidery machine set up like sort of permanently, it kind of lives in under the desk, but underneath where the computer is. Sort of getting it out, setting it up, what have you. I just haven't had the time. But this is a perfect bag for doing sort of like a small panel embroidery on, if anybody wants to do that. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera. I will get rid of our little banner because we all know now what we are sewing and what my name is. Just I'll leave that up just for anybody joining us for the first time and says, my goodness, who's this mad woman with the strange accent? So right, I have already made my strap. I have a tutorial which is linked in the description box down below on 3 different ways to make a strap. So I already have gone ahead and made my strap 1 inch. This is just a double fold vinyl. So I have used 2 lobster 1-inch lobster clasps and a 1-inch strap adjuster, and then I've just riveted it, but you can stitch it down if you don't want to use rivets. So pop that to one side for now. Thanks, Donna. Right, let's move these little bits and pieces to one side and concentrate on our pattern pieces. So I have my main panels. So my front and back panel, this is in a wool blend that I got the other week. You might recognize it. I've made a couple of things with it already. I absolutely love it. Like I say, I was going to sort of try and do a little bit of embroidery on the front of this panel, but I just haven't had the time. But it is sort of perfect if you know you've got any small embroidery designs that you could use. It's perfect for showcasing. So this, I have interfaced it purely just because I do want this bag to have a fair bit of structure. I am sewing on a Jack H2 walk on foot machine, so my machine can get through all of those layers. If you're sewing on a domestic machine, I would leave any interfacing out of your seam allowances, as well as the stabilizer, which I'm using Decaville Light, is also out of my seam allowances. You are given the pattern pieces for the Decaville as well, so you don't have to make your own pieces for the Decaville. You are sort of like shown with, you know, the cutting lines, sorry, where you need to cut for the Decaville. So it's very, very easy. So as I say, wool interfaced and stabilized with Decaville Light. And then my lining pieces, exactly the same size. This is just a cotton, and then this has been interfaced with a woven interfacing as well. So I'm just going to pop my little label back on to keep me right. And then I have my strap connectors. The pattern will give you the measurement in 2. I've just cut mine in 1 piece, just so that when I top stitch it down, I'm just top stitching it in 1 go, and then I'll cut it in half to create my 2 strap connectors. And I have just drawn a line down the middle and put some double-sided tape on either side. My zipper panels, I'm using vinyl for my exterior zipper panels, and I have these stabilized with some Decaville as well. Now you can probably see my Decaville is slightly, where it's out of the seam allowance is slightly different on one side to the other. This is the top, this is the bottom. So pay close attention to the pattern. It's shown on the pattern pieces and also described in the pattern of how you put this Decaville on. So pay close attention when you're attaching your Decaville, that you're putting it on so that your top seam allowance is different to your bottom seam allowance. That's really important. And then my lining zipper panels is just the cotton, also interfaced with a woven interfacing. My gusset, again, my exterior is vinyl, stabilized with some Decaville, and then my lining piece is just cotton interfaced with woven. And I've just followed all of the directions in the pattern to interface and stabilize. My inside pocket is just a cotton stabilized with a woven interfacing. You can use non-woven interfacing for your pockets and your interior, really, if you want to. My preference is just a woven, because we all know that I'm a little bit extra, a little bit OCD, and I just prefer to use a woven interfacing. This is my front slip pocket, again in the same material as my interior slip pocket, and it is just interfaced with a woven interfacing. If you are worried about your machine going through lots of layers, because don't forget this pattern is going to be bound as well, leave the interfacing out of your seam allowances as well as the stabilizers. if you are worried about your machine handling the all the layers. And then we have our inside slip pocket, and as per, I've gone with a little accent pocket piece as well. I think this may be a 6-inch accent pocket, and I've double checked it does fit. My hardware, as well as the lobster clasps and the slide adjuster that I've already used on my strap. I have 2 1-inch D-rings. I have 2 zipper pulls for my main zip. You can get away with just using 1 zipper pull if you want to. I'm going to use 2 as per the pattern, and 1 zipper pull for my interior zip. 2 zips cut to approximately the length in the pattern. They're a little bit over, but they're cut to the length of the pattern. And binding. You can use pre-made binding, so binding like this. You can use that. I just prefer to use double fold binding. And you might be looking at it and say, well, that's not folded, that's single fold. I just haven't folded it yet because I prefer to fold as I go. So this is cut to 2 3/4 inches, I think it is, if I remember rightly. I cut it a little while ago. Yeah, about 2 3/4, and it's cut on the bias. So I'll show you obviously at the end how I do my binding, because I do mine slightly different to the pattern. Sorry, Emma. But like I say, I'll show you when we get there. So yeah, so let's make a start. I probably will be referring back to the pattern fairly regularly to keep myself right, because although I have made this quite a few times, it's been a while since I made it. So just that I don't confuse both you and me, I'm going to try and do it in order. Not that I ever usually make patterns in order. So let me know if sounds okay. I think I have connected to the microphone, not the camera mic. Screen's okay. Hopefully the internet is behaving itself and we are good. I hope everybody's been having a good day so far. Set up, like I say, I'm working on a Jack H2 walking foot machine. I have a size 19 needle in my machine. I usually sew either with an 18 or a 19 needle. The reason I'm using a 19 needle today is some of these seams, because we're binding, are going to be a little bit thicker. So I've erred on the side of caution and I've gone with a number 19 needle. I'm using a Tex 45 thread from Little Stitches Sews in colour, I think it's slate grey. No, just grey it's called. I often use Tex 45 thread. You can use Tex 70 if you're using an industrial machine. Reason I use a Tex 45 is because I have a Janome H D9 as well. So I tend to buy Tex 45 thread and then I can use it between both machines. Yeah, construction stitch, I always stitch at 2.5. Top stitch and stitch is always 4.5. Seam allowance is given in the pattern. I think that's all. I'm just gonna give my machine a wipe down just to make sure there's no excess oil. That is one of the joys of an industrial machine. Sometimes it likes to give you a present of a little bit excess oil. So I'm going to start with my strap connectors, and like I say, I'm doing mine in one piece. So basically all I've done is added the 2 measurements for the 2 pieces together and cut it in one go. And the back doesn't seem to want to come off. That's because I've got oil on my hands. And then once I've top stitched it, I'll just cut it in half. And then it just means that my stitching is nice and even. I'm going to go the other side. This is because my hands are very slippy because I've got oil on them of where I've just cleaned the back of my machine. So I'm going to fold the long edges into that line, and I always like to start in the middle and work my way out because I find it keeps it nice and straight. You can, if you want to, put a little bit of Decaville down the middle if you want to stabilize your strap connectors a little bit, if your vinyl has any stretch to it, or if you're using cotton and you want to give a little bit more structure, you can put a strip of Decaville down the middle too. I do always like to give mine a little roll just to flatten them out a touch more too. And I'm just going to top stitch down each side. Usually when I top stitch, I'm usually always top stitching about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, unless the pattern specifies set differently. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you've got any. Hi Michelle. Hi everybody. I'm watching while sewing up more doggy collars and printing out a tester pattern, so maybe quiet. I am nearly finished with the tester that I'm doing. I very, very rarely, I'm just going to get a wipe and give my hands a wipe over. But back of my machine must have had a lot of oil on it. I very rarely test patterns. I was chatting about that on the podcast last night. Like I say, I very rarely test patterns, mainly because time is one thing, but I actually quite struggle to test patterns because I'm not the world's best follower of instructions, but I do like to do them occasionally just to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone. And I've really enjoyed testing this one, and it's perfect for something that's coming up. Do you need a Teflon foot to sew faux leather? Yeah. Not with this machine, but definitely if you're sewing on a domestic or even a semi-industrial, a Teflon foot is invaluable. So just going to feed through the strap connectors through the D-rings. And then I'm just going to stitch a row of stitching close to the D-ring. Now I can change over to my my zipper foot, but I've just been getting this skinny foot, and it is quite good. Like, it is quite narrow, so I'm going to stick with that because I can get fairly close. But if you want to get closer, by all means change over to a zipper foot. And then we'll just put these to one side. I'm just gonna, we'll just wear these, there's a few little things of thread. So because it's a poly bonded thread, I'm just gonna singe those and pop them to one side. And I'm going to work on my front panel. So I've already given mine a little press, just so I didn't have to keep getting my iron out. But basically all you do, fold it in half and give it a press. And then we're going to top stitch along this top edge here. So if you want to use a seam guide to make sure that you get a nice even seam, by all means do that. And then I'm just going to mark my centers of this piece. Normally I'm very good and have all of my centers marked. I'm just going to put a clip in to hold this in place. But I've been so bad this week. I don't know what it is this week. I just seem to be sort of so behind, and I don't know why. I haven't had a particularly busy week. Last week was, so I don't know whether I'm playing catch up from last week, and I just seem to sort of be finding things like, oh, I haven't done that. But I can easily mark my centers as I go. That's fine. So one of your outside pieces, and again I'm just gonna mark my centers on this bit as well. Obviously you can mark it with, you know, heat erasable or water erasable pen, or by snipping into the corners. I literally just mark, you know, the smallest of snips just within the seam allowance, and it just helps to sort of line everything up. So line up those centers. And then just line up these edges. So you will have like a little bit of ease in this pocket, so it won't sit 100% flat, so that, oh, I'm stuck. So obviously you have room to put plenty of stuff in. And I'm just going to baste all the way around the outside within the seam allowance. I'm just going to use my top stitch and length. I'm not going to change to a massive basting length. I'm just going to use my top stitch and length because that's what I'm on. I can feel I'm a little bit out there, so I'm just going to adjust. And then that's your front pocket all done. And then I'm going to mark my centers on my other panel, and I'm going to put my nameplate on this one. You could put your nameplate on the front of your pocket, on the other one, on the other side if you wanted to. I'm going to put it on this side, mainly just because I think sometimes when you put your nameplate where it's a pocket, you don't want it to be rubbing if you're using that pocket continuously. So I'm going to pop it on this side. Just get my ruler so I can line it up. Donna says, I've tried basting at my longest stitch, but it makes it gather. Just try a shorter stitch. If like your longest stitch, say that the like 8 isn't working, then knock it down to a 6 and try that. Michelle's saying, I love the Vicky May. I've made this one and the Vicky May too, and I use mine every single day. Okay, so I have got Decaville on the back, but I am just going to put a little bit extra Decaville just to reinforce. So do I want it on the from the bottom or the top? I think I'm going to go from the bottom. Just this wool is really difficult to use a pen that you can see. Yeah, I can just about see that. And I know which holes my prongs go through, so I can just mark through the holes, mark on the other piece of Decaville. Like I say, I've already got Decaville on the back of this, so this is just a little bit extra reinforcement. And I'm going to use some glue on the back of my hardware. So I'm just going to pop a little bit first of all, just where I've cut them slits. With this being wool, I do not want it to fray. And then just make sure that I'm putting it in the right way, because I've done that before where I've put it in upside down. Why is this not wanting to go in? There we go. And then I'm just going to use a bit of tape on the back. And all this does is it just protects the lining from those prongs. If you were putting the handle on, this would be the point that you would put the handle on, but I'm not putting the handle on because that's not something that I would use. So I'm going to do my inside slip pocket now. So I need one of my lining pieces, and like before, find my centers. I've just hoovered in this room as well yesterday. I'm going to have to hoover again. And then just like I did on the exterior slip pocket, I'm just going to top stitch, and I'm just going to use my seam guide to make sure I get a nice even top stitch. And as I say, just when I was prepping, I you know, folded these and gave them a good press. I actually did it with my heat press that I use for attaching all of my interfacing, which I absolutely love. I have a video on that on my channel, which I think is linked in the description box down below. I basically use my heat press for pretty much everything. So I'm just making sure that that's all lined up nicely. God, that oil has got everywhere. I do need to change the oil in my machine. That is probably a job for one day next week. I need to order some oil and get it changed because it is desperate. And then just baste all the way around. And again, I'm just going to use my top stitching length. I'm going to divide this in half. The pattern is divided in half. If you have a preference and you want to divide up your pocket differently, obviously you can put your divide wherever sort of best suits you. You know, if you've got a larger phone, so you want to have a bigger pocket, and you maybe want to put a couple of pen slots on this side, however you want to like divide up this pocket is absolutely fine. I'm just going to follow the pattern and run a line of stitching down the center. I'm going to back stitch at the top and at the bottom for reinforcement. So I'm literally just going to follow this line all the way down. And then just because I've used a heat erasable pen, I just use my iron to get rid of that pen mark. And pop that one to one side. So we're going to make the zipper pocket now, if I can find, no, there. I thought I'd lost my pieces again. I did find my piece that I lost the other week on the, was it the passion flower where one went missing? I did find it. It had literally flown across the other side of the room. Jonna's saying, are you feeling okay? Following the pattern is not like you. Well, I am feeling a little bit croaky. Well, I'm saying I'm following the pattern. I'm following it now. There will get to a point where I deviate, and I'll show you. So you know, I'm not being totally good. Nikki says, where do you get your clips from? So these clips, the hairdresser clips, I just got them on Amazon. and I use them all the time. I do love them. I like them because they're very easy to sort of pull off, and they do keep things very, very flat. They're not but they're not as secure as these, especially for sort of thicker fabrics, but they're very good when you're putting linings together, that sort of thing. So I do sort of go between the two. So given the measurements in the pattern of drawing on a box and putting right sides together, sewing the box, feeding through your pocket and creating your zipper opening that way. But I ain't following the pattern, am I, Donna? So I am going to put a zipper accent on because that is what I prefer. So I'm going to place it let's just see where I want to pop it. So I just kind of nip. Now I'm going to come up a bit. No, I think I might stick where I had originally said. So this is probably as big as accent as I can get away with, because I need to think about my seams. But I do prefer an accent, so that is what I'm doing. It's not quite straight, I don't think. No, it is. It's my eyes. Darren's saying I'm going to have to go. Didn't sleep well last night, so going to have a nap or watch later. I hope you're feeling better soon, Jan. It's nothing worse than not sleeping well. It just makes you feel awful. So I hope you enjoy your nap and come back and watch the replay, and we will catch you soon. Let's see what. Oh, I don't know whether I've got any labels that will go with this. I think I'll pop one of them ones in. This still doesn't look even to me, so I think I'm just going to eyeball it. Yeah. What's the blue label? Oh yeah, I could use the blue one, couldn't I? It's just exactly the same as the white one. It's just in blue. Shall I go blue or shall I go white? Which looks best? Because my others are all green. Shock, horror. And then the rest are ones for anybody who was watching the podcast last night when we were talking about making a bag out of Andy's uniform. This is what these are for. So this here depicts the prison service. This is the thin, is it silver or grey line? It depicts the prison service, which is why I have these in, so that when I eventually make his bag from his uniform, I can use them on it. The white one, right, cool. We shall go white. Yeah, the white does show more. The blue kind of sort of thingy's in, doesn't it? Yeah, we after the podcast yesterday, and I was like, I've got your uniform earmarked for something. And he was like, Deb, you've had it earmarked for like 2 years. And I was like, I know, I'm scared. I'm like, I'm scared to cut into it. I'm scared that I'm going to do it wrong. So I'm going to sew around the outside of this accent piece. I'm going to take my top stitching length down ever so slightly, because I'm going to be coming around this rounded corner, and it's a little bit easier to top stitch around a rounded corner with a slightly shorter top stitching length. And just take your time, you know, there's no sort of rush, there's no race. And when I'm moving the fabric, when I'm lifting my foot there and I'm moving the fabric, what I do is I take my foot completely off the pedal so I can't accidentally sort of send my foot going when I've got my foot up, just to try and make it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to pull these threads through to the back and tie them off. Brian said, made me Snickers last night when you said, oh, snigger last night when you said Andy's uniform had plenty to share. Do you know what it is as well? It's sort of, when you look at like other sort of uniforms, you know, they're so like, you know, they're so ornate. Well, not necessarily ornate, but there's, you know, they've all got like nice trimmings on them and nice bits on them, and prison officer's uniform is just so, oh, yeah. But yeah, don't get me started on how the prison service treat their staff, because yeah, I shouldn't get political on my channel. So again, I like to use a little tiny bit of tape. You could use a little bit of fray check or anything. You could sort of see those ends back, but I just like to use a little bit of tape just to sort of seal them, stop them coming undone. Really enjoyed last night's podcast. It was lovely chatting to Anna. She's got such a gentle way of talking. She's so calm, unlike yours truly, who says, what is it? It says on Forrest Gump, as mad as a box of frogs. That's me. Literally just trim back. You've seen me do this 100 times, but I'm just trimming back. It doesn't have to be, you know, really neat, really perfect. Just making sure that you're not cutting through that accent bit, and that none of your fabric is shown from this side. Sue saying, love all the podcasts, looking forward to next week with Dawn. Yes, me too. So obviously if you were doing this pocket with putting the box on this, you would just be folding this up. But because I'm going to be putting the zip in slightly differently, I'm actually going to cut this in 2 parts. It will mean that I'll lose a little bit within the seam, but My alternative would be to put the zip in, and then when I'm top stitching, to stop and start and pull threads through and move the zipper pocket. And frankly, life's too short, so I'm going to just trim it in two and then just put a seam in at the bottom. And you know, I'll only lose 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch or so, and that will be fine. You know, when you look at how it sits anyway, that's still going to sit perfectly within the panel. Couldn't think of the word then. So I'm just going to pop some double-sided tape after I've chucked that one on the floor. First thing to go on the floor today. Donna's saying I've never watched Forrest Gump. I love that film. I'm a big film buff. I can recite I pretty much recite Forrest Gump word for word. I can recite Gladiator word for word. I tend to like rewatch films in the sewing room that I've already seen, so I don't have to sort of concentrate on them, even though I still end up getting distracted. But yeah, I do. I love films. So I've already pressed these zips. Just going to sear my edge. Donna says, I like the distressed blue fabric. Where's it from? It is from Sew Fabrics in Darlington, which is near to me, but she does have a Facebook page. Don't say no more watching TV while you sew. I know. I'm a liability, Dawn. I know. Green Mile, another great film with Tom Hanks. Yes, I totally agree. I like the one, was it Sully? The one with where he's a pilot and he lands in the Hudson. I like that film too. I want to watch the latest one that he's in with, is it him actually that's in it? I don't actually know whether it is Tom Hanks who's in it. It might be somebody else. But it is Robin Wright, where they're in the house and it depicts them throughout the years. I want to say that it's Tom Hanks, but I might actually be wrong. It might be somebody else. So I'm just lining up this zipper with the edge of the zipper panel, right side of fabric up, right side of zipper up. It'll seem odd, but it is right. And I'm going to sew this together at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Put my iron on because I want to press this. Just cutting back all these threads. Chuck my snips on the floor as well. Second thing to go on the floor. One of these days I'll hit a record. And then we're just going to do exactly the same thing on the opposite side. You don't have to use tape if you don't want to. If you just want to baste it straight in place, you can. But I do like to use tape just to help keep everything in place. And I'm using a little bit of a longer zip just so I can keep me zip pull out of the way and keep everything nice and straight. I find it easier. Diane saying, yes, it is Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. The name of the movie is here. Oh, I was right. Good. But you know, when you sometimes think it's one person and then you look and you think, oh, it's just somebody totally different. But it looks like one of those, like, you know, totally like feel good movie. Like, I think it looks like it'll be sad in places, but it looks like it'll be a feel good movie as well. Me and Neve went to see that one with Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. Oh my goodness, I needed an IV drip to rehydrate after that. Well, I'm slightly wonky, but never mind. I mean, it was a good film, but oh my goodness, it was a tearjerker. And me and my rumbly tumbly. I wasn't hungry when I went. I was fine. I'd had plenty to eat, but my goodness, there was sort of like loads of like quiet points in the film, and it would go really quiet, and then you just hear my stomach go. I was like, oh my, like, just behave. I was like so embarrassed. I'm just giving this a good press so it lays really flat when I'm putting it into my zip accent. I'm a little bit skew, if you can see. I'm a little bit wonky, but that's me. Donna's saying double-sided tape and staples are my new sewing best friends. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love double-sided tape and staples? Michelle's saying, I'm the queen of dropping things. If it was a sport, I'd be a gold winner. As for clips, forever pinging them everywhere. Oh, Michelle, honestly, I'm so bad. Like, I spend so much time, like, I mean, even not after I've just done a live, like, even just, you know, if I'm sewing just for me, I spend so much time afterwards going round, picking stuff up off the floor, and then trying to get myself back up off the floor is a sport in itself. And then usually the sort of like right under, because this is like another table like here, where obviously my computer and usually all my mess sits. And they're usually sort of like right in the middle of here. So I've either got to climb underneath this table or climb underneath the sewing table. So yeah, so I usually end up injuring myself. And then Andy's usually like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm retrieving all my clips. So I'm taking just off the top double-sided tape first, and I'm just lining myself up so I'm nice and centered. And I quite often like to do it from this angle so I can sort of see that I'm even, and I push it down. And then I take the bottom one off. The reason that I don't do both at the same time is I find that I would be fighting the two sort of sticky parts. You know, one part would be sticking and then the other part would be sticking, where I find if I stick one part, I get that nice and lined up, take the second part off, and then it works perfectly. Donna saying, that's normally me. My stomach makes some interesting noises. Mine's so bad. If I'm hungry, it makes noises. If I've just eaten, it makes noises. If I've just drank, it makes noises. Speaking of drinking, so I'm having a drink. Julie's saying, how rude, I missed 20 minutes as I had to join a Teams meeting. The joys of working from home. I mean, that's just rude of them, Julie. Expecting how, like, what do they think? Expecting you to work. I mean, awful. Donna's saying, have you seen the little bars that you fit over your zip to get it even? Like these, I can't get away with them, if I'm honest. They only come in sort of certain lengths as well. So yeah, I got sent them, if I'm honest, but I'm not keen on them. Brian saying same, Jilly, pesky work getting in the way. It's just rude. Michelle saying same, I have to pick up and clips like to hide under stuff. Yeah. My favourite stiletto fell behind the table with my sewing machine on, and I've got Alex straws underneath, so it lives there for now. Yeah, I actually have in my Amazon basket, like saved, when we were talking about them. I can't remember whether it was on a club live or whether it was on one of like the main channel lives, about the clippers, the grabbers, and the magnetic, and you can, like, obviously Andy's dad's got one for like picking up stuff because he can't bend over, but you know, like you can, they're really long, and they've got like the little grabbers in the handle, but they're magnetic, so they're like easier for picking things up. So I think I am going to get myself one, and I'm going to be like Andy's dad with his grabber. So yeah, but it is sitting in my Amazon basket at the moment. So I am going to start my stitching around about an inch away from this edge. My zipper is at this edge, and I'm going to start about an inch away. If you're using a slightly bigger zipper pull, you know, a decorative one, leave a little bit of a bigger gap so it's easier to get the zipper pull through. And back to my top stitching length, keeping hold of my threads. And I lift my needle slightly just to make sure that I get a nice even turn. And I'm just using my wheel there to position my needle where I want it to be. And then when I get back to roughly where I started, I'm going to pull my zip pull through. It's nice and easy with these plain ones. Just making sure that where's my thread? I think I might have sewn it. And then I stop and start in the same hole. And I'm just pulling these threads through to the back so that I don't have any back stitching, and my stitching is as neat as I can get it. So I'm just going to grab where is it? Oh. Just going to grab my needle, pull these threads through to the underside. probably do these two together. And then I'm just going to knot these on this side of the panels, just so it is really neat. If you want to backstitch and you're okay with the backstitching, then, you know, just backstitch. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to do it. So I am a little bit wonky because I didn't 100% line up my panels as well as what I thought I had, but it's not the end of the world because I can neaten them up now. I'm just going to pull this double-sided tape back, and I'm just going to sew down and across and back up. Obviously this bag is being bound, so it doesn't need to be left open in order to turn it through or anything. I always backstitch over my zip. And I'm going to leave quite a big seam because I don't want this zip panel to be in my seam anywhere. And then back up the other side, and then I'm just going to trim it back. Oh, I've got my big scissors there. Totally forgot that I got them out. And then just where that zip's been trimmed back, just sort of re-singe it. And then what I've started doing with my zip panels is using a little bit of fabric glue just on the ends here, just to help reinforce. Obviously the stress point with the zip is here, so just sort of gluing these down just helps to add a little bit of reinforcement. That was a tip that I found with the lovely butter bags. I'm trying to remember her name. I think is it Rebecca? I think that's Rebecca. So I can put that to one side, just to air off for the time being. Okay, so we're going to work on our zipper panels and our gusset. So I'm going to put my 2 zips on, and again this zip is much longer than it needs to be, mainly just so that I can keep moving the zips out of the way as I'm working, and keeping my zip tape nice and straight basically. So I'm going to put one on from one direction and then the other on from the other direction. It's not quite lined up. I do have a video. That's perfect. I do have a video showing how to put the zippers on in sort of like more detail, like much more sort of slowed down. So yes, right side. So you want to be on the side where it's the smaller seam allowance, and you need to refer to the pattern for the seam allowance for this part, because it is slightly different to the seam allowance for the rest of the bag. Tammy's saying, I'm accident prone big time. Either it's stepping on a clip, my finger with the ripper, cutting the side of my index finger. Honestly, yeah, like I absolutely like feel you, Tammy. Like if like I could literally sort of trip over and have an accident in an empty room. Like I am so bad. And it gives me anxiety to like watch other people doing stuff as well. Like I know this sounds really awful, because I want to be so supportive of like other people and like their videos, but like it's very rare that like I watch anybody do a cutting out video, because I just get too anxious. I can't watch them. I'm like, oh my, like especially if I see somebody sort of like cutting towards themselves or something, I'm like, oh my God. So I am just putting the lining together, just lining that up as accurately as I can, and then I'm going to sew this together. Make sure that you refer to the pattern for the seam allowance for this part. Dawn saying, accidents waiting to happen. I have found my people. Absolutely. I need to will I need my, I don't think I'll need my seam. No, I will not need to change to my zipper foot. Result. So I'm basically just sewing all the way along here, construction stitch. And then fold back the seams to meet. So I'm just going to pop some clips to hold this in place. I'm going to use quite a few clips because it's going to want a sort of like roll the other way. And then I'm going to do the other side first, and then I'm going to top stitch them both. So we need this edge, not this edge. Don't say I'm always covered in bruises, constantly falling. Yeah, like my son was the same, my middle one. Like, we used to sort of joke that he was sort of at A&E more than the nurses sometimes. Sorry, just gonna have a drink. And he was always having accidents at school. I was forever getting phone calls saying, can you come and pick him up? Because he's had an accident doing this. Or he's had an accident, you know, playing football or... So I'm just trying to make sure that I've got this lined up so it's nice and neat here. Would trimming the seams like on the Annabelle help? Maybe, I don't know. Seams are only quite narrow on this one. So I'm just going to turn over so I can make sure that I'm lined up nice and neatly. I'm a little bit wonky there, so I'm just going to take it back. Press it down. The worst thing about putting your zip pulls on already, the clatter on the table. I do apologise. Dawn's saying they knew her son by his first name. He was an active kid, yeah. Mine was the same. My brother was as well, to be fair. So just lining these up. Going to line up at one side, then at the other, try not to get my nails stuck to the tape. And then just sew this side down as well, exactly the same way. And then I'm going to put lots of clips in. I don't know whether I'm going to trim it down because it's such a small seam. I think it might be a little bit awkward to trim. Put another clip in this side. And then I'm going to top stitch down each side here. And we need our strap connectors. So let's move our zip pulls into the center, and I'm just going to even up my tape. And your strap connectors want to sit over the middle of your zip tape, and they want to overhang by an inch. So you want to clip them in place. That's slightly wonky. Needs to be a little bit further over. And then the same on the other side. So line it up so that it's centered over your zipper tape. And then we're going to baste them in place. So just baste them over the edge here. I'm going to trim back all the loose threads because I hate having loose threads. Sorry, I seem to have a right tickle in my throat. And then we need to attach our gussets. So we have one gusset goes on right side to, so the exterior gusset goes right sides to the exterior of the zipper panels. And if you've done your seams right as the pattern says, they should line up. And then your lining piece goes lining right side to lining of your zipper panel, and that gets sewn together at the seam allowance in the pattern. This does not get trimmed down. I'm going to back stitch over this part. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this side. So the exteriors get clipped together, and then the lining gets clipped to the lining side. And then this seam gets sewn together. If you need to use your hump jumper at this point to come over this seam, and then you just want to make sure that these are nice and even, that there's not, you know, too much fabric on either side. And then going to top stitch down here, and then I'm going to add a rivet in as well. So I'm top stitching towards the gusset, so my strap connector, those extra ends are inside the gusset, and that extra part of the strap connector is going to help to add sort of stability on that strap connector, because you haven't cut it back. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. I'll try and maneuver it so that you can see on this side. Keep it nice and taut. And then I'm just going to baste all the way around, and then add a couple of rivets where those strap connectors are. So I'm going to kind of baste it sort of roughly my top stitching length. I might knock it up to about 6, but I'm literally sort of going to be right on this edge, because I'm going to be running a couple of basting stitches round, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. And you want to make sure that your lining and your exterior meet up. And at this point, you're only literally basting it so that they act as sort of one, and you're not sort of trying to work 2 bits of fabric at the same time when you come to the next steps. Morning, Muriel. Okay, let's put these clips away, grab my punch and my press, and obviously my rivets. You can measure this if you want. Julie's saying, sorry Debs, what machine are you using again? It's a Jack H2, so it's a walking foot machine. So I'm pretty much just going to eyeball this and sort of put my rivet about 3/8 of an inch down from this top stitching, this seam, and in the center. If you want to measure it, you can absolutely measure it. I'm just going to punch a hole, make sure I've gone all the way through. I have a straight thread. And then I'm just going to do the same on the other side. So I always like to put my rivets post side through and then put the back on the back, and that is just basically because it keeps me right if I ever need to try and take a rivet out, because I always take a rivet out from the back. I know which one is the back. Do you think a strap connector going around the base would work with a Vicky May? You could try it. I think these are pretty strong with them being sort of in the seam, top stitched. The reason that I tend to do the strap connector going all the way around is because I don't like fiddling on sewing those little boxes. That's the reason that I changed mine up. Right, so let's baste our panels together, and then we're going to move on to binding. So this is going to be my front. So I want my slip pocket on my front, and I want my zipper pocket on my back. That's how I want it. Julie's saying, thank you, I would like an industrial machine, but I don't want the table. Yeah, I think most industrials come with like a built into a table. My Janome is sort of semi-industrial, and is freestanding, and you know, she's punchy. She will sew through pretty much most things. I think there is, I want to say, Saltrite, which do like industrial type machines that are freestanding. I don't know whether they do them in the UK. I think, again, don't quote me, but I think Country Cow were looking at stocking them, but I don't know whether they have been able to, whether anything's come of it. Saltrite, yeah, Saltrite, something like that. But maybe drop Adam a message from Country Cow, because they will be able to either help you, point you in the right direction. Both of them are absolutely lovely, and if you know they have any information or can help in any way, shape or form, I'm sure they will. So I'm just matching up all of my centres first, and then literally in between putting in plenty clips to keep everything in place, and then I'm going to baste these in place. Yeah, that would, you're right, Brian, that would keep it out of the thick seam. But you could do your strap connectors in a less thick fabric. You could do them in like a cotton and interface it rather than using vinyl like that I have. Right, so I'm basically just going to top stitch all the way around. Just make sure that that's lined up as evenly as possible. And make sure everything's sort of kept together. I'm just sort of basting within the seam allowance at around about 5-6. It's, you know, if you just want to baste at your top stitching length, that's absolutely fine. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same thing with the other one. And then just put all of these clips away. Oh, Muriel's saying the console is a portable walking foot machine. Interesting. And then obviously you can just Google console in the UK. I wonder if college sewing or tie sew, what have you, have them in. Right, Brandon, everybody's going to be like, oh my god, like, but I promise you it's fine. And I do mine slightly differently. I'm having a slurp of hot drink. So this is the point that I'm going to put my binding on. And you're probably going to be like, what are you doing? But and it does involve more basting, so please just bear with me, because you're going to be like, oh my god, what, more basting? But it is an extra step, but it does make things easier, and I'll show you how. So this is my double fold binding. and I've squared it off, and I am going to basically fold the short edge down to the long edge and just sort of give it a little finger press. I am going to mark my centers of my bit now, because I want to do my joins at the bottom. Oh, Sincerely Jen did a live with the console portable. Interesting. It's whether we can get it over here in the UK, but I imagine if there's a console dealer, then we should be able to. Right, so use my other scissors because those ones don't want to work. Just make sure I've got everything marked. Right. Okay, so I'm going to go on the bottom of my piece, and it's on the lining side. So I'm going to start on this side and just past that middle. So I'm kind of lining the middle of this little sort of triangle up with the middle of my gusset, and I'm just going to pop a couple of clips in. And I'm a little bit fussy when I do this, so like I say, but it does, it works, and it makes binding so much easier. What I do is I base this little bit in place first, just this little square, sorry, this little triangle, and then just to say past it, maybe, you know, an inch. I just suddenly thought I best just, oh yeah, it's well long enough. So now what I do is I fold over, and I leave it open, probably from this bit here, from this fold, probably a good sort of 2 inches. And I'm just going to put a couple of clips to keep that first bit in place. I don't clip all the way around, and I also don't press my binding, and I'll tell you why. The reason I don't clip it all the way around and I feed it as I go is because I find if I clip it as I'm sewing it, I find I just have to readjust it anyway. So I just adjust it as I go and put it in place and baste it in place as I go. The reason that I don't press it is I find that when I fold it over, if I've pressed it, when I fold it over, that press isn't always in the right place. So I don't press it at all. So what I'm going to do now is under the machine and about 2 inches down from here. So basically where that first clip was, I'm going to go all the way around and baste this binding in place, folded in half. So I'm wanting these 2 edges lined up against the edge of this bind, about the edge of this gusset. And I'm not pulling it tight, I'm pulling it sort of straight, so it's got a little tiny bit of tension on it, but not loads. And I just take my time with it so that it lines up, it's nice and neat. Remember, this is just a basting stitch at this point. And then I'm coming back round to where I started. So hopefully I'm going to kind of cut the excess off. So I want to cut it to roughly an inch past that fold hasn't. I want to cut it to about an inch past where that fold is. And what I'm going to do is tuck it inside, and I'm going to pull it fairly taut. Just trim about 1/4 inch off. So it sits nicely in this crease. I pull it taut so it's and then I baste all the way down. And then what that gives you is a binding seam like that. So it's easier. I find it easier than trying to meet it up and stitch across and you know, try and make it look nice and neat. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. I'm going to leave it on this angle so you can see it from the other angle as well. So where's my other piece? So you need to make sure that your piece has been squared off. Jonella's saying enjoying your life. Thank you so much. That really means the world. And like I say, I mean, you can give it a press if you want to. Just lining this first bit up first. And this first bit gets basted in singly. That's really important. The first couple of times I did this, I got confused and did it double, and I was like, why is it not working? And it was because I was doing the first bit, I was like basting it down this way. You can use this method as well with like the single, you know, the shop bought bias binding, in basting it on first, and I'll show you why it's easier. So back, well, near enough back round, so I'm just going to trim it back. And I sometimes overestimate, but it's always, you know, if you overestimate and you need to trim it again, then it's fine. It's easy enough done. So I'm just going to trim that one back a tiny touch more. As long as, I'll show you on this camera, as long as this fold is past sort of this fold, then you're good. So I'm just going to make sure all my threads are trimmed back. Just make sure that binding is lying flat. And then I am going to clip my exteriors to my gusset. So I'm just going to bring my clips over because I'm going to need plenty of them. So I clip all the way along the straight edge. I tend to do my long sides first. Ooh, where's my centre? I did mark my centre, didn't I? Oh, there, it's there. It's just only a little one. Oh, that mustn't be my centre. Let me just mark my centre again on this because, oh, it has. I just can't see it very well. Okay, so all of my straight edges are done and I just need to work these corners in. So I seem to have a little bit more on that side than this side, so I'm going to just shimmy that up. So you just want to make sure when, you know, you're clipping everything together that you're absolutely happy with it. Right. So I'm just going to snip into the gusset. And then just, again, lots of clips, or you can staple as well. And I'm just going to do the same on each corner. I'm probably snipping in about 3 mil. I'm kind of snipping up to sort of like where my basting is, and about every centimetre or so. Absolutely running out of clips because I've got another bag with binding on it where I've got some fabric glue on it and it's covered in clips. So I've probably got about 40 clips on that, but it's fine. I think we'll be okay. And this is absolutely a thing that you want to be taking your time with. You want to be making sure that you get it all lined up perfectly, that you're happy with it. Right. Okay, so now I am going to sew round at the seam allowance in the pattern at my construction stitch. I'm going to be sewing with the gusset up and the flat, like the panel side, flat to the machine. You'll see that I've actually put my clips with the flat side where the panel is, and that's so that it sits nice and flat. It makes it a lot easier. So you know what I should do? I should check me bobbin. Oh, I'm good. I did have a really full bobbin, but I thought, best just double check. So I've obviously done a fair bit of basting. So I've just changed my stitch length. I'm just using a seam guide to make sure that I'm keeping everything nice and easily Tracy's saying, unfortunately, the console CP206 is only available to our US friends. Ugh. If you need to, use your stiletto or screwdriver to keep everything lined up nicely. No, my clips stuck on my seam guide. Tried to change my camera there, didn't work. So what I'm doing now is I'm just checking that my binding goes over to where my stitch line is on this side. Obviously you can trim back, which probably will a little bit on some of these corners, but you can trim back if you need to. But can you see how neat that side looks? So I just want to make sure that I'm happy with that seam. I don't need to take it any bigger. And I'm just checking that I'm happy with it from this side, and I am. If you want to run a second row of stitching around around this, you absolutely can. That's absolutely fine. You know, if you feel like you want to run a second row of stitching around, reinforce it, then that's no problem. So again, I'm just doing exactly the same thing. I've sewn leather on my HD9 Tracy, and it sews beautifully. Just used the right size needle. And I think the Dukey and the HD9 are very, very similar. Just double checking that that was my center there. And I don't always use a leather needle as well. I would only ever use a leather needle if I was sewing completely in leather, because obviously a leather needle slices. So if you were sewing cotton with the leather, it would mean that it would slice the cotton, which you don't want to do. So I only ever use a leather needle if I'm sewing entirely leather. And I find a good quality universal needle works perfectly fine. I think really a leather needle is only ever really needed if you're sewing particularly thick, you know, tanned, really thick leather. If you're sewing, you know, sort of like repurposed, quite soft leather, a normal needle will work absolutely fine. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. Except my scissors have decided they don't want to snip. Sometimes these scissors can be like really sharp and snip great, and then other times it can feel really dull. It's so strange. But again, I'm just about 3 mil in, and about a centimetre round the corner, and then plenty clips. Only reason that I am not stapling, normally you would see me stapling, is this is wool, and I don't actually think the staples will hold particularly well because it's quite a loose weave wool. I'm just going to take another snip just around this corner. What's everybody's plans for this evening? Anybody got anything interesting that they're going to be doing? How come I've used more clips this side than I did the other side? Like, how weird. I want to go to the pictures now. We've been talking about films. I don't know what I'd say though. I don't know what's on. Gonna say, just hoping to do a bit more of our first mini NCW. I really should finish my test bag. I mean, I'm still well within time scales, like got loads and loads of time. I've literally only started testing it 2 days ago and I'm nearly finished. Diane says getting a long overdue haircut. Oh, I'm really weird. I hate getting my hair cut, like really hate it. I actually haven't had my hair cut since before the wedding. The last time I got my hair cut was for the wedding. I have cut my own hair since the wedding. I'm literally like, oh, that bit's getting on my nerves, and I'll just cut it off. But yeah, I am one of those really weird women that I do not like getting my hair cut. I don't actually like. I always have my nails done because my hands are on show a lot of the time. But I don't like going to get my nails done. Diane saying, have you seen the Christopher Reeve documentary? It's very moving. I haven't, Diane, and you've just reminded me. My mum was talking about it and telling me about it, about how good it was. And then it's gone out of my head to watch it. So, yeah, I might see if Grumpy fancies watching that tonight. Grumpy is my husband, by the way, Diane. If you haven't joined before and you're thinking, who the heck is Grumpy? Grumpy is my better half. So I'm going to leave the camera on this angle so you can kind of see how I manipulate the bag round around these corners. This is actually the second bag that I've done this week with binding. My shoulder is killing me. Bridget Jones' movie is out. I haven't. Does this sound really bad? I haven't seen any of the Bridget Jones's movies. Like none. I mean, I might have seen a little bit of one of them years and years ago, but it doesn't ring any bells. But maybe I should watch them. I really wish, oh, I went a little bit off there. Just go back, tidy up. I really wish I'd gone and seen the second Gladiator film again, because I really enjoyed it. And I was worried that I wouldn't, because I love the first Gladiator film so much. And I was like, oh, you know, when the sequels are they going to be as good? Like, you know, sometimes things just need to be left. But no, I absolutely loved the second Gladiator film. I mean, the first one's my favourite. Like, I just love that film. But I really enjoyed the second film. Paul Mescal was really good in it. And then I actually went and watched Normal People the other week, and I really enjoyed that. Dawn says, I love getting my hair done. It's like a spa day for me. Oh, I find it torture. I don't know whether it's because, you know, I used to have a salon. I mean, I didn't do hair, I did beauty. But yeah, I just do not enjoy it. And I don't know whether more of it's because, you know, since I've gone through the menopause, my hair's curly, and people just don't know how to deal with curly hair. I don't know how to deal with curly hair. So yeah. So let's check this side, make sure we're happy. So now, normally when you've attached your gusset and your outer, you'd be attaching your binding now, but your binding is already attached, and all you need to do now is stitch it down. But what I am going to do is just make sure my seams are nice and even, and just kind of tidy up anywhere I need to, and create a little bit more mess, because I mean, it wouldn't be a day ending in Y if I didn't create some mess. So yeah, we're all good on that one. Dawn say my hair is curly now. The older I get, the curlier I get. It's weird, isn't it, Dawn? Like, my hair was poker straight. Like, literally, I could just blast it dry. Was like literally poker straight. And then as I've started to go through the menopause, like, yeah, it's like, it's really curly, and I'm like you, like it's getting curlier and curlier, and but which is one of the reasons why I'm trying not to use permanent colour on it now. I have stripped all of the permanent colour out, and I'm just using like temporary, not temporary, like colour conditioners. And I'm going to see about possibly embracing the grey, although I'm not sure. Donna's hair's poker straight. Menopause just made it thinner. Yeah, I mean, I've got thin hair, but that's a lot to do with the autoimmune conditions that I have. But it is what it is. I mean, worst case scenario, I'd shave it off. Like, it's just hair. Tracy's saying that looks so much easier. I hate binding, even cutting it. Yeah. I just, this is actually material that I've had out of IKEA for the longest time. And yeah, I just cut really long strips of it because it was like so cheap. So what I try and do is line it up with the seam. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, what I normally do when I've got lots of time and I'm not recording and I'm, you know, I haven't got people watching me and time isn't of the essence, is I will usually use a fabric glue and glue down and pin and let it dry. And then I usually hand stitch because I'm extra and I'm a faff and I like things to be right. And I don't like hand stitching. Like I hate hand stitching, but I do just think binding looks better when it's hand stitched. Like it's just beautiful. But I'm not going to hand stitch it today. I am going to machine stitch it. My machine stitch and binding is not, you know, it isn't the prettiest. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's going to come out beautiful. But time is of the essence. So, but you know, to sort of full disclaimer and full honesty, what I would do is as I'm pinning this now, I would be running some glue behind it and I would be clipping it and I would be letting it dry. And then I would literally be sitting when I'd watch the TV and I would hand stitch it in place. And then it would look absolutely gorgeous. Donna say my hand stitching's not good. My hand stitching is not the best, but I just think it looks better. I just think binding does look better when it's hand stitched. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, so I'm going to stitch this one first and then I'm going to pin the other one, because what I don't want to be doing is I don't want to be battling all the clips on this side as well as the clips on this side. And I mean, holy moly, we're nearly done. So I just basically work enough space to get it under the needle, and I like to do my stitching at about 3, and I'm just really going to take my time. It might be a little bit boring for you guys to watch, but I'm hoping it stays in place because I haven't glued it. But that is what I would do, is I would glue it in place. We'll see how this first one turns out, and if it's moved, I'll just glue the second one. But I just think when you've spent so much time making a bag, making it look gorgeous, making it look pretty, you know, them extra steps to finish it nicely is worth it. Oh God, Brian, I hope you're all right. Speaking of hand stitching, I'm heading urgent care for some stitches in my finger. Enjoyed things so far. Brian, please let us know how you are, even if it's sending me an inbox later on. Please let us know how you are. I nearly always miss the back of the binding. Yeah, I quite often do, Donna, and I find when I'm doing it this way, I most probably will miss the back of the binding at some points on this one because I haven't glued it and it'll probably shift as I'm sewing it. But I do find if I glue it and then like clip it and let it dry, it's so much easier. I don't tend to miss things. It just comes out better. But like I say, we haven't really got time for me to glue it, let it dry. If I was sort of like recording it and editing it, that's what I would have done. But we'll just see. We'll see how it comes out. What glue would you use? Just a fabric glue. Sorry, I know that's the opposite way around. Brian saying, yes, rotary cutter isn't too bad, but I think it needs a couple of stitches. Oh, Brian, I hope you're okay. See, this is what I mean when it gives me anxiety. My daughter's boyfriend, when he comes over and he'll come into my workroom and he'll pick my rotary cutter up and oh my goodness, holy cow, I have not missed. I mean, it's not the most beautiful, but I mean, I am well happy with that. Let's just go for the other side while I tell you about my daughter's boyfriend. So yeah, he'll come into sort of like my work space where, you know, like my interface and you know, all the hardware and everything that I sell. And he'll be talking away to me and he'll pick my rotary cutter up and he'll be sitting sort of clicking it, opening it and clicking it. And I'm like, give me that here. Like, just give us it. You give me anxiety. So he'll give me it. And then he'll pick my scissors up and he'll be like opening and closing the scissors. And I'm like, give me them because you're giving me anxiety. And I'm just like, oh God, I love you to bits, but you're stressing me out. Get out of my room. But I get really sort of, I get really anxious when I see other people using me stuff. No, like I say, using rotary cutters, using like scissors and stuff, because I just worry about people having accidents and stuff. Diane said, this is lovely. You make it look so easy. To be fair, Diane, like it's hints and tips that I've picked up from other people. This binding I actually picked up from watching quilting channel, like quilting people doing it on quilting bags and stuff. And I was like, my goodness, that is genius. And you know, binding wasn't one of my favorite things to do, but I actually quite enjoy it now. Like I say, I do prefer to do the whole gluing, letting it dry, and then even if I am going to machine stitch it, I would always glue it, let it dry, and then stitch it, because then I can take the clips out and it's easier. It's so much easier. But I mean, but can you see how? Can you see here where it's got like a little, I don't want to say a twist, but if I'd press that in, it would look awful. But I can get it to sit right because I just smooth it over, and that is the reason that I don't press it. And that again was another tip that I learned from watching quilting peoples. Diane saying, I am a quilter for many years and just started to make bags. I love to see, I'm not a quilter as in like, you know, doing patchwork and doing all the intricate quilting designs. I just don't have the patience. But I love to see people doing quilting and then making those quilting panels into bags. I think it just looks beautiful. Everybody's sending lots of love to Brian in the comments. Funky Garment says, hi all, we'll rewatch the beginning bit later. No problem. Michelle's asking what glue I use. I just use this glue that I got from, I only use this for binding. I just got it from Hobbycraft or something like that. But I use this Fabri-Tac glue for everything else, but I find that the slightly thinner glue, like that fabric glue, is better for the binding. Michelle says, I'm terrible for cutting myself. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Karen saying, I like to use fold over elastic for binding. Yeah. I do use it, and obviously, I mean, I sell it, but for me personally, I prefer the double fold binding. And I think it's just, you know, using like what you like is sort of the, you know, just if you go with what, I'm going to switch over to this camera so you can see from this angle this time. Go for, you know, using what you like is the best thing. It's finding what works for you and sticking with it. Like I say all the time, just because somebody says this is the way to do it doesn't mean that's the way to do it. It means it's their way to do it. I can't stand when somebody's like, this is the right way to do something. It might be the technical way to do something, but if you can't do something that way, then it's not the right way to do it. If you find a way to do it and it works for you, then do it that way. It just, if it's cutting towards you, don't let me say you do it because it'll give me anxiety. The double fold is more durable in the long run. Yeah. And like this stuff here, like I'm on the wrong camera. Like this stuff, I'll leave it on the table and I'll show you when I turn to the other camera. You can use this method with the other stuff, like stitching it into the seam, which I think is a much easier way to do things. But it's only single fold, and I just think double fold is much more durable. Oh, that one's stuck. It does, like the double fold, it does obviously add a touch more bulk to the seam. But it's just thinking about, you know, what your machine can and can't handle. Keep your fingers crossed, guys, that this one's turned out as well. Oh, I've missed a tiny little bit in these corners, but do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to glue them. So yeah, I'm just going to glue these ones. Put my iron on, and I'm going to glue it. Didn't go quite as well. Just pop some clips in that for a minute, and then I can always come back and run some stitches around it later. Right, so what was I saying? I was saying about this. So you can still, you know, do the same, stitch it into your seam and then fold it over and then stitch down, but it is only a single piece of fabric. But I mean, it's literally only 2 tiny little bits that I've missed there. I would show you my other binding that I didn't miss any on, and it was that single binding, but I can't because it's my tester. Right, I'm just going to use my iron on this glue to set it. Michelle says, I did an order from America and I got some adhesive binding. Oh my God, it's brill. Little Stitcher does adhesive hex ripstop, which can be cut into strips and you get the same result. Yeah, that would work. Right, I can come back and pop another bit of stitching in there. There's the dog's just been let out for pee-pee and being fed, so if you hear barking, I'm going to apologise now. So just turning this through, trying not to clatter all my hardware. I'm still struggling to grip with this hand. I think I'm probably always going to struggle with it now. I would have ideally loved to have used this for the pocket as well, but it would have just made it too thick. But I do love this fabric too. Just going to push that out. One thing I do love about binding is the shape that it gives a bag. It's just beautiful. Like, it's just gorgeous. Let's get my, I'm going to be all rosy cheeked. I can feel how warm I am. I've got a jumper on. I've been so cold, so I put a jumper on today and I'm so warm now. So let's put my strap on, and there we go. So that's like technically the back, but it could be the front and then the back. And I say, just look at how nice that shape's gone with that binding and the binding inside. So I hope you found that tip with putting the binding into the gusset, like basting it into the gusset, and then attaching your gusset to your front and back panel makes it so much easier, because I find trying to get your binding onto the gusset once it's attached to the front or back is so much harder, and so you literally, it becomes part of the seam. So I just find that so much easier, and I do that in any bag now that I make that has binding. That is, well, apart from when I've been doing this test, I didn't use double fold, I used single fold because that is part of the test, but I did put it in the other way. But I just love it. I love the Vicky May. It's, I think, you know, 1, 2 or 3, I'd say 3 is the easiest out of the 3 patterns to make. So, you know, if you're buying it and you're more of a beginner, then 3 is definitely the easiest one to go for. But, you know, the others that have the front pockets are, you know, they are much easier to make than what you think they are. So Karen's saying, lovely bag. Sue saying, gorgeous bag. Thank you. Michelle's saying, that's fab. Love the fabrics. Yes, you know me. I love a wool. I love a wool and vinyl blend. But yes, I'm very pleased with how this has come out. I just need to kind of go back and tidy up those 2 little corners, just where a slight bit where it missed. But definitely when you turn it over, running just a little bit of fabric glue along, putting the clips on, leaving it, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour for it to dry, and then running your stitching round. It makes it so much easier, because what happens is, as you're taking, you know, as you're removing your clips, it'll shift that bottom binding the way the clip's going, so it can move that bottom binding as you're sewing. So when it's glued, it doesn't move. It stays where it is. So it does just make it a lot easier. And again, that was another tip that I saw on a quilting channel, was to glue the binding in place and then stitch it down. And I was like, oh my god, that's so much easier. So yes, I hope you've had a nice afternoon with me this afternoon. Oh Janet, I hope you're feeling better. I hope you're feeling better now, not as tired. And thank you, I really appreciate it. What have I got on next week? The penny. I think I'm making the penny next week, but it's all up on my channel. I think I haven't got a live on Monday. Normally I sometimes do a chatty vlog on a Monday, but I haven't got one this week because I'm away at a trade event on Monday. But I possibly will try and schedule one, because I'm just going to show you, see if I can reach over and get it. Look what came. I need to hide my dress. Look what came. Rainbow Fabrics has arrived. And I haven't opened it. It came yesterday and I haven't opened it yet. Obviously I need to open it to make sure everything's in it. So I'll try and schedule something and show you what I got. It's all kind of lots of lining fabrics to go with things, to be fair, but still all really pretty and really nice. So yeah, I will try and fit something in somewhere. I've just got quite a few bits and pieces going on at the minute. So yeah, but I am in Birmingham on Monday. Let's hope my train home doesn't get cancelled again like last time, and Andy doesn't have to drive down to pick me up. So I've hummed and hawed about whether I was going to go to this event because of the drama I had the last time I went to Birmingham, but I decided to bite the bullet and go. And now I'm like, oh God, should I go? But I'm going. And hopefully Andy doesn't have to drive down and pick me up, because the last time it was a weekend, so it wasn't too bad, but this time it's a Monday, and obviously be at work again on the Tuesday. But everybody pray for Deb. I don't have the best of luck with trains. I usually book trains and then they get cancelled, or they're really delayed, and then I miss my connections. And Sue's saying Birmingham's only an hour away from us. Oh well, Sue, if I get stuck, I'll ring you. You can pick me up. You can have a house guest. Oh, the last time they managed to get me back as far as Leeds, which normally wouldn't have been a problem because I would have just gone and stopped with my daughter, but my daughter was home. She wasn't in Leeds, she was at home. So yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I'm really looking forward to going. It'll be a good, fun event. So if anybody decides to make a Vicky May, please do share them in the Facebook group. If you're not already a member of the Facebook group, please do come and join. If you've enjoyed the live, please do give it a like. It really does help me get seen. I know Donna said in the chat earlier on, thanks Donna. And please do consider subscribing to the channel. I am trying to do lots of lives, lots of videos at the moment. And I really enjoy when, people come on and chat to me, as I saw Sue saying that would be no problem. Just as well, Sue, just as well. So, but thank you very much to everybody for joining me this afternoon, and just keep an eye on my homepage. Anything that I've got scheduled, there's a little section that says upcoming lives. So you can see what I've got coming up. Any that take your fancy, you can click to be notified, and you'll get a notification when I go live. Anybody that's in the club, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I might open the parcel tomorrow morning on the live. So I shall see you then. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a lovely weekend, and I shall see you soon. Bye.